All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Everybody, we've got so many registrations for this webinar today. So many people have applied to come and attend this webinar. One of the reasons why is because we don't cover executive MBA programs that often on our channel, and that is something that we are guilty of and we accept. And we plan to correct that in the coming year. Also because we've got a massive star cast with us. We've got some of the absolute best executive programs, people representing them on our panel today. And we've got someone who's representing the GMAC committee, the committee that runs the Gmat exam, also on our panel today. So we've got a star-studded panel, and that is why we've got a great response from our audiences about this. Everybody who's joining in, please give us a like, give us some encouragement. We want to keep doing stuff around executive programs as well, along with our usual service around normal MBAs. So please give us a like, subscribe, whoever is joining us for the first time. And we are going to quickly get into it now. We're going to start this program. We're going to start this webinar now. We are expecting one more guest to join, but while she joins, we are going to start this off. Guys, as you know, I'm Kunj Sanghvi. I'm the CEO of Inside IIM and Alt Uni, and we are going to talk about the top executive programs in the country today. We've got representatives from all of them, and we've got someone who actually handles the exam that helps you get into it, which is the GMAT. So we've got a panel, and I'm going to introduce everyone to you immediately now. So the first person I want to introduce is Mr. Ram Kartha. He comes from IIM Ahmedabad. He's the Associate Vice President of the PGPX program at IIM Ahmedabad. Ram, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kunj.
Great. The next person I want to introduce is Mr. Balakrishna B. He's the Head Marketing of Degree Programs at IIM Bangalore. Thank you, Mr. Balakrishna, for joining in.
Thanks. Happy to be here with you all.
Great. Happy to have you, Mr. Balakrishna. The next person I want to introduce is Mr. Gautam Lakhamraju. He is the CMO and Admissions Co-Director at Great Lakes Institute of Management. They've been partners with us for many years. And thank you so much, for Gautam, for being here today. All right. The next person I want to introduce is Miss Sehar Khanna. She's the Marketing Manager, South Asia for GMAC. Sehar, thank you so much for taking out time and joining this academic panel.
Thanks, Kunj. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. And finally, I want to introduce Mr. Yashwant Pulumati. He is joining us from Indian School of Business. Yashwant is a Senior Manager Admissions for the PGP program at ISB. Thank you so much for joining, Yashwant.
Thanks for having me, Kunj. Looking forward to a fruitful session.
Great. All right. So, guys, let's begin this conversation first. There's a very fundamental question. Do you think that executive programs are finally seeing an interest in India, where typically the historical approach has been that you finish your education and then you start your career and that's about it? Having a large amount of work X and then going back to studies is something that has been looked down upon historically. Do you think the time has come where things are going to change? I welcome any of the representatives of the executive programs to take this question. Yeah, Mr. Balakrishna, why don't you start? Go on.
Yeah, fine. See, one is from the student perspective and one is from the institute or the faculty perspective. Let me put it the other way around. That is, from the faculty perspective, how the faculties are feeling in campus when they're teaching the regular PGP program and an executive program like a one-year MBA program. So the faculties enjoy teaching to this one-year MBA program because it is not an easy one. It is really a challenging one, and there will be a lot of learning for the faculty also. Because this one-year MBA students, they come with experience and they never hesitate to ask questions. And class participation is one of the key parameters in an MBA program for learning to the students. And the students are coming from different diversity, that is the education diversity, then the work experience diversity, and from the different industry side of it. A particular approach may work in an IT industry, but it may not work in an healthcare industry or in a real estate industry. So there will be a lot of different perspectives for the same approach. So this is what we try to bring out in a class of a 1-year MBA program, and that's how it is going to be an exciting class. And yes, it is picking up very much. And also industry people are also looking for people with work experience coming to an MBA program. And then they are like ready to fit into the lateral entry level. So industry
Right.
is also very much interested with these candidates.
Right. Gautam, what do you think is the
So,
cultural shift
yeah,
that has
I
happened?
think there's some excellent points that Mr. Balakrishna mentioned, right? Apart from that, if you really look at a macro level, perspective, right? The fact is that the Indian economy now is much more diverse, right? You have different kinds of businesses, different kinds of opportunities, right? Earlier, everybody had to follow the same route, right? You do your engineering or medicine, and if you do engineering, typically you go to US or you do an MBA if you're from a good school, right? But that mindset has changed, right? People now have many different opportunities, from e-commerce to different startups, and in every industry there is change, right? And you have people also wanting to explore their own pathways, right? People want to pursue liberal education, liberal studies, somebody wants to do commerce, right? There's no longer this mindset that get into engineering, do the first job in your IT company, right? So that also means that people want to explore and then come into business school. And as Mr. Balakrishna said, the richness of diversity really helps in the classroom, where people bring in different perspectives. So I think executive programs are here to stay, and I think more people would want to gain the experience before getting into business school.
Right. Ram, you were going to say something.
Yes, Kunj. I thought I will add a different perspective as well. I think both Bala and Gautam made great points. I am also a student of the program, right? So I remember, and I was part of PlaceCom as well. So as part of PlaceCom, you reach out to firms, and I was part of probably the second batch from IIM Ahmedabad, right? So at that time, when we went to companies to pitch the program for placements, many of them never heard of it. Many of the HR folks, they actually were shocked that people with experience are now coming in and studying or taking a mid-career break. So it was something very unheard of at that time. And now they have become more responsive. They've aligned roles for the program. So any of those mid-management to a senior leadership kind of a role, they allocate that for these programs. So yes, the time for these programs have come. They have evolved. The other point which I also wanted to make was many of the MBA programs are reasonably expensive, right? So from an commitment standpoint, you just have 1 year of commitment, and that's your opportunity cost. So from an opportunity standpoint, also the 1 year is probably more desirable for people who are making that transition.
Right. Okay. Yashwant, I want to come to you with a follow-up question on this, and which is that what is so different in the structure? ISB at the core of it is structured only as a 1-year program, whereas all the other campuses here actually have a 2-year program as well. So what is the essential difference between the 1-year program and the 2-year program in terms of what does it give to the final user, the student?
Right. I think that's a great question. And if you were to break any 1-year program down to the core, the core courses and the curriculum would be more or less very, very similar to what you would find in a traditional 2-year MBA. But if I were to further break it down into the number of classroom hours, in a typical 2-year MBA, you would get 720 to 740 classroom hours minus the internship or the 6-month work that they do. But if you were to look at ISB's 1-year program, the entire 2-year course is condensed into a 640-hour program. And so right from our inception, we've kind of been forerunners in this space where we've kind of put forward the 1-year PGP. And that is because we've kind of realized that people don't really want to take 2 years out of their career and, spend it in education at that point at the certain point or at the point where they are in their careers. So that was the whole ideology behind having the 1-year format for the MBA.
Sure. I think we have Sukita joining us from Bokoni. Sukita, are you there? Can we see you? Okay, maybe she's... Okay, let's continue. Guys, That's the other thing, right? So I want to talk to campuses that have been doing the 2-year program and the 1-year program. What is the difference in terms of the outcomes for the students, and also the kind of students that you intake for a 1-year program versus a 2-year program on your campuses?
So Kunj, I can speak, I can give you my institute's perspective. One is from a positioning standpoint, both these programs are very different, right? So the 1-year program is where we prepare students for mid to senior leadership roles in about 7 to 8 years post their graduation, right? And for the regular 2-year MBA, it is senior leadership role in about 15, 16 years. So that's a significant difference from a time standpoint. Also from an intake standpoint, the 2-year MBA has majority of them in the 0 to 2 year work experience. For us, it's, we have minimum to apply for the program, you need about 5 years of work experience. And on an average, we are about 7.5 years. Right. So that's the, I mean, in my opinion, those are the two significant differences. Positioning and the kind of students that come into the program.
Mr. Balakrishna, how is the MBA classroom of a 1-year program versus a 2-year program different? Like, what is the experience like in a 1-year program versus a 2 years program?
Yeah, as Ram mentioned, that each institute has their own positioning of 1-year MBA and the 2-year MBA. It is catering to a different market segment. So, for example, the 2-year MBA is more of a freshers or with a minimal of up to 2 years kind of an experience kind of it. And of course, there are a few people with more than that. Whereas this 1-year MBA program, we start with around 5 years of work experience, because they should come with some kind of a industry knowledge.
Right.
And then we go up to the around 12 years of work experience, but we have even candidates with 15 years of work experience also. But the batch average work experience is around 7 to 8 years of work experience. And another beauty is this 1-year program has many candidates from the international work experience. See, with the freshers or the PGP, what we conduct, getting a international work experience candidates or international students is not that easy there because of the CAT and our own regulations, the entry gate points. Whereas the 1-year MBA program, we get candidates with foreign passport holders or the people with international experience and the diversity. These are all the key things which comes as a key point. And when it comes to the tactical side of it, our 2-year MBA program at IIM Bangalore is 900 plus contact hours. That is the number of teaching hours. Whereas our 1-year MBA is around 720 contact hours. So the rigor is still there. And when it comes to the electives, see, we have 2 courses of electives for the 1-year MBA program, and we made the electives as open for all the programs. That means being a student of 1-year MBA program, he can go and sit in a 2-year MBA program elective courses also. Same way, a student of 2-year MBA program, he can come and sit in a 1-year MBA class for an electives. So thereby, when it comes to the electives, there is no difference that this is a 1-year program or a 2-year program. Again, the diversity is going to increase, and it is going to be a big gather of class with diversity there. So these are the kind of things which comes as a add-ons to a 1-year MBA program.
Right. I'll just take a moment here to introduce Sukita Tapadia. She's the head of marketing at SDA Bocconi Asia Center. SDA Bocconi is a top school in Milan, Italy. It has a Bombay campus, and that's what she's representing here. Thank you so much for joining, Sukita. Sorry for the unfortunate technical issues.
Thank you so much, Kunj, and my sincere apologies for joining in late. Like a lot of times, I think, there are surprises when we are working from home. So it was one of those days for me today. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Sukita, will come to you. Before that, I have a question for Sehar. And Sehar, all these guys are using the GMAT exam as the measure to figure out who are the students who get into the 1-year program, into the exec programs. What is the structure of the GMAT program, and why is it ideal for admissions into such top programs across the country?
Well, to answer 2 questions there. First, I'd like to answer what is the structure of the GMAT exam. That's something very basic, which I'll take first. So structure is basically, we have 4 sections, which is AWA, analytical writing section. Then there is quantitative reasoning. There's verbal reasoning. And the last one is IR, integrated reasoning. And now, since we have launched the enhanced version of the online GMAT from 20th of May onwards, we have the exact same sections for both the formats, which is test center as well as the online GMAT. So I just want to make this clear with everyone that in the earlier version of the online GMAT, we did not have the AWA section. Now we have it. So for both formats, be it test center or online, which is you can take it from home, you have all the 4 sections, and there are several features like section order, flexibility, etc. So structure is this. It's a 3 hours, 7 minutes exam, excluding breaks. There are 2 breaks of 8 minutes, optional breaks, which a candidate can take. So that's about the structure of the test. Your second question on why is it, mandatory for, the courses that we're talking about here, I think one of the things that I'd like to talk about is how GMAT, Mr. Balakrishna only actually spoke about diversity. And I quite like that point, how executive programs have a diverse pool of candidates. So international candidates could also apply. And that's something that I'm sure in his classrooms and faculty also really enjoy the experience of having such diverse opinion and people coming from different backgrounds together.
Right.
I think make more holistic learning. So that's possible with GMAT. Obviously, domestic exams, I think that's one thing that's not possible, where you cannot have an international candidate come over. But GMAT, it's taken across the world.
Right.
It's accepted by more than 2,000 plus B schools with so many 7,000 plus programs. So that is one thing that's possible. Diversity is possible. The other bit is that GMAT is actually testing. It's a very standardized test. It's a computer adaptive test. It tests your basic ability of quant and verbal. Which is something which is needed while you do your MBA and also post at your work. So it's actually a test of your job readiness. It's a test of what is your level of commitment to a B school. So that's what GMAT is testing. And that is why, the schools obviously accept it as one of the eligibility criteria. Obviously, there are other criteria also, your essay writing, your LORs, SOPs, etc., which the schools definitely mention on their websites. But yeah, GMAT is also one of the criteria because it's a very objective way to test a candidate.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Sehar. Gautam, I want to again understand from you, when you speak to recruiters, for example, what is the difference they see in your 1-year MBA batch and the 2-year MBA batch? What are they seeking? What are they looking for from your students in the 1-year MBA batch?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, as I said, right now we have a far larger marketplace in terms of the job opportunities compared to what it was maybe 10 years back. Right. So earlier companies, you had the usual suspects, FMCG companies and some banking companies, right? That's used to be all the major recruiters, and they put you through a management trainee role, right? This was pretty much designed for fresh graduates, right? Even if somebody had 1-2 years of experience, more or less they also went through that route. Right.
A lot of them would come with management trainee programs, which will anyway be structured in such a way that they have to be onboarded for a year before they even start hitting the ground and making any impact. Yeah.
So the assumption was that, yes, the B schools were great filtering centers, right? You take very smart kids, right? Put them through the grind and, with the basic theoretical knowledge sorted, maybe a 2-month internship thrown in between the first and second year. But essentially they were seen as, completely new to industry, and there was a need for this management training program, right? And some of this would lead to high quality roles, so there's no doubt about it. But on the other hand, for the executive programs, people already have experience, right? In our program, it's about 3.5 years experience. In some of the others, I think it's higher, right? So there, when the recruiters come, they know that these guys have a certain level of maturity. They have had experience dealing with all the challenges of workplace, right? They may not have been in necessarily in manager position, but they have dealt with, the workplace challenges. And the learning itself is far more, practical, in the sense that, people can relate what they learn in the classroom with their own experiences from the past, right? In terms of how they could have dealt with challenges in different ways and so on, right? So when companies come for these experienced candidates, they are looking at these guys as some people that they can put in front of clients from day one, right? The people who can deliver on the go, right? So the roles they are looking for are slightly different. Maybe it could be in a consulting role, it could be as a senior manager, right? So people who can actually deliver from day one, as opposed to starting as a management trainee.
Right. Okay, I'm going to bring in Sukita here, and I want responses from everybody else as well on this. Guys, what are some good reasons for someone to take up the executive program? Like Sukita, the IE program at SDA Bocconi has a minimum requirement of how many years?
Yeah, so I think, thank you, Kunj, for the question. So here, I think we are slightly differently placed. So for example, in Bocconi, when you talk about executive MBA, the baseline is pretty much above, on an average, 8 years of work experience. Because the baseline for MBA, if you talk about the Milan campus, is about 5 years of experience. So our executive master's program that we run here, our baseline is around 8 years as well.
Wow. So at 8 years, what are the reasons where you would think that it's a valid thing to do? Like, I know a lot of people are just rejected because of the intent is just off. Like, it does not align with what, why they've come to do an MBA. So what are some valid reasons?
I think more than that, we need to focus on what has really happened in the market in the last 7-8 years. Like, like we have here on the panel, we obviously have a standard 2-year MBA, and then we also have our very nicely structured, compressed 1-year programs. But what has happened is there is this third market, which is the market for people who probably did not do an MBA before for one reason or the other, had amazing job opportunities, and therefore kind of stalled it, pushed it forward. Also because if you remember, 8-10 years back, the industries that we kind of saw a lot of boon in, for example, telecom, pharma, IT, these guys suddenly reached a point where they started feeling, there was a certain lack of relevancy in the kind of work they were doing. And that's where they decided, or they started thinking about coming back to the classroom. And this is the reason that we focused our executive master's program to target this particular segment, where people who've worked in really amazing roles have pretty much held, let's say, mid-senior executive positions, but now are struggling to move forward. So big reason, to be honest, and I hate to use this word, but it's also the reality, is a certain sense of stagnancy and lack of validation. So these are the two reasons that we have seen as far as our senior executives are concerned.
Sure. Okay, Yashwant, can you come in here and tell me, in your experience, what are the kind of good reasons that people come in and do an MBA? Because to my traditional Indian mind, sometimes it just does not make sense that, I'm in a company, I've gotten into my job. Why would I go back and study again? Like, because of the traditional mindset, it does not make sense. But what are some of the good reasons you've seen?
Right. So I think over the course of time, like Sukita said, the MBA has evolved a lot, just like our industry, and the needs for the industry have evolved. So again, this can be kind of broken down into two different segments, one from the student perspective. But I think if you were to just look at the contemporary developments, if you were to look at the Satya Nadellas or the Sundar Pichais, all of these top executives, all these top CEOs who have been a very recent phenomena have an MBA. So if you were to look at CEOs of big companies like 30, 40 years ago, you wouldn't see them necessarily having an MBA. They would be a focus, they would be a specialist. But nowadays, all the CEOs have an MBA. So I think, like Sukita mentioned, that stagnation, being in that middle management for too long is one of the major reasons. And also a second reason would be a lot of people want to do something different. Either they want to change the industry they work in, they want to change the function that they operate in. So if I were to narrow down, I would say these two are the primary reasons. Obviously, there are a plethora of reasons that, people come in for, but these probably from my standpoint would be the majority of reasons.
Right. Okay. Now I want the two big IIMs to now come in, and I want to understand from you guys. ठीक है, एडमिशन तो हो गया, you're in a executive program. In a year, what can really be taught, like, to someone who's worked in big companies? And let's take a persona. Okay, typically we get a lot of students working, they are engineers, they work in the industry as software developers, or even if they make the transition to product managers, they are there for about 7 years, 8 years, depending on what your intake is. And now they are looking to shift into more managerial roles. They want to become capable of becoming CEOs, founders, those kinds of roles, get into senior management. What are some of the situations that you've seen, and how does that transition happen during the course of that 1 year?
Maybe Ram can go first because he's also an alum of PGPX
yes, sure.
and IMB. So why he chose this program? And yes, Ram, give it you.
I think I will give two reasons why I did this program. One was it was my return to India strategy, right? I was primarily
return
working
to
in
India
the US,
strategy,
right? So I did that. It was probably the easier way to get into the Indian working scheme of things. The other was obviously in my case was a transition in a role and a function. So those were the two key things why I took up that role. And see, one of the, I think the intensity of the program is so much that I think after that the first 5 or 6 months, for lack of a better word, I would probably call it as close to hazing as possible, right? After that 6 months, I wasn't afraid of anything thrown at me. So from a confidence standpoint, I think I was very confident that anything thrown at me, I could handle it. So I think personally, I could say that. And for me, I think the biggest, amongst the courses, if I were to say what I learned from some of the courses, I would say HR and OB, right? Those are learnings which you take, throughout your, your professional careers. And I'll be honest, I don't remember anything from my finance courses or marketing courses, but these are courses which they ground you. Those are courses which come in good stead, because as you grow higher in an organization, those soft skills become very important. And those are the courses which come very handy. So that's, my input out, my learnings from this program.
Right. Mr. Balakrishna?
Yeah. See, this 1 year MBA program, the students who are coming, they are coming with work experience. Somewhere or the other, they feel that, yes, whatever they're doing is good, but is it good enough to see their career? Because they have another 25 to 30 years of career ahead of them, because they're joining us at the age of 30. So even if they're working till 60, the 30 years of career is there. See, for the remaining 30 years of career, whatever they have now, is it good enough?
Right.
Or what is the right time to enhance their knowledge in a diverse area?
Okay.
Because whatever the technical things they have now is, yes, fine, I have. But what is the new things I need to acquire so that my career growth plan is much more in a rapid way or in a much more transactional way kind of it.
Right.
So that is where multi-dimensional exposure is coming up, because a person with the technical knowledge, he may be knowing the know-how on the technology side of it, but may not be on the human resource management side or on the finance side or on the strategy side or on the marketing side. So this is what an MBA is going to give. So that's why the students are coming to this 1 year MBA program after having a 5 to 6 years of work experience, and then they're changing their roles and responsibilities and their career path. Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's do this one small exercise. Okay, I want to hear from all of you, what are the typical designations / companies that people come from when they join your executive programs? Yeah, and then we'll talk about what are the designations / companies that typically go to. So you may not tell me BCG, for example, but you can say a top consulting firm, So I want to understand what is that transition that happens in their careers. And there is no better way to look at it than actually look at the designations and the companies that they come from and the companies and designations they go to. So can we for example, I would imagine that a lot of senior software developers from TCS would be coming in some of these programs. What are some of the other things? Anybody can chime in.
I think typically the designations that they go for is a head of something, right? Head of delivery, head of sales.
That's the output, right? That's what they go for.
So when they come in, they are, say, at a managerial level, an IT consultant, managerial level, and when they graduate, then they go into, I think, if not a notch, a couple of notches higher than what their designations are. And I think, like you mentioned, I think I'll probably address the elephant in the room as well, is one of the drivers is also salary.
Right. Absolutely.
Salary is absolutely a component. You are probably at a level and you feel that, you can be at that, you can get that multiple post and MBA. So that's again a driver. So general manager, head of products, etc. Those are some of the output roles.
Right. Anybody wants to add in? Sukita, your MBA is slightly different. So do you see?
So right. So this equation is obviously, the way we look at it is slightly different because our incoming candidates are, to be honest, pretty much leading departments. Their average work experience is anywhere in the range of 12 to 15 years. To be honest, their key focus is either they're looking at a pivot, in the sense they are in a function, they've been leading it for quite some time, and they're really looking at transitioning from that particular role, industry, segment, function. So what we've traditionally seen is that candidates who are coming from, let's say, IT, ITS in roles like project leaders, they are looking at joining the MBBs or the big four consulting firms or even the other IT consulting firm in a larger consulting / business roles. So these are some of the transition we have seen. So that is one. So industry shift. And the other one is, like, I think, it's very honest what Mr. Ram mentioned is the fact that, especially it's with senior guys with so many personal responsibilities, salary is a very big factor. Right. So that is something that is another key shift that we see.
Gautam, I'm sure there is a lack of credentialing also, right? Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who get out of their undergrad college, start working because of family compulsions, and then they always struggle to make that shift to a senior leadership role or get that coveted role because they don't have a top B school alumnus status, and that credentialing is also important why they do this, right?
Yeah, I think if you break this segments, you have the people with 3-4 years of experience, right? For example, our PGPM program caters to people with, let's say, 2 to 6 years, 7 years of experience.
Right.
Then you have other executive programs. We also have an executive program for senior managers, which is for 8+ years of experience.
Right.
Right. So the folks who are having, let's say, 8, 10, 15 years of experience, there, yes, one, they want to learn things, right, to broaden their perspectives and competencies beyond one functional area. And also, as you said, credentials matter a lot for them to get to that senior management levels, right? For the young guys who have, let's say, 3-4 years of experience, for them, a lot more focus is in terms of immediate career growth.
Right.
That's one dimension is, as you said, designations and position. But more importantly, salary is a bigger driver there,
right?
More than, let's say, the more senior executive levels. And third, it's in terms of the kind of work you do, right? Maybe you ended up doing something after your undergrad in a technical role, but they think their competencies are different. They enjoy working with people in teams and all more than working on coding, right? So they want to get into the management side, right? So these are the three things that people look at when they're on the slightly younger side.
Right. Okay. To the audiences, guys, we are going to start taking questions now. Everybody who's joined in, if you guys are having a good time, please give us a like. Please subscribe to our channel and also give us a like to this particular video. I'm going to take the first question and I'm going to come eventually to Sehar. But before that, I want to hear from Yashwant about this, because Yashwant has completely Yashwant's campus has completely relied on GMAT, whereas others also do GMAT/CAT for their other programs. So this is a question by Sandeep Kanchustambam. That's a tough name to pronounce. Okay, Sandeep is asking, why is CAT not considered for the selection of the Executive MBA programs? In your case, any of your programs, how have you chosen CAT? How have you chosen GMAT above CAT as the right entrance exam?
So the whole premise behind ISB was to kind of stay in line with the international paradigm. And if you were to see the top B schools around the world, they kind of have a global exam as an entry into their programs. So we initially started out with the GMAT and consequently added GRE as well as a form of a test score. So as of now, we do not have CAT. But I don't know the ideology, the intent behind it, but we are trying to stay as close to the international paradigm as possible, maintain the international standards, and so I believe this is part of the process.
Sure. Mr. Balakrishna, this is a question to you. How does GMAT become the right exam to evaluate people with WorkX versus the CAT, which is for lesser WorkX people? How is that choice made?
Okay. See, for our 1-year MBA program, we take candidates through GMAT or GRE.
Right.
And CAT exam is conducted only in India. So it is not conducted outside India.
Right.
So if you want candidates outside India, then you should have something else also. So what we have made is, so GMAT or GRE, anywhere it is there, both in India as well as outside India. So we are going ahead with GMAT or GRE as an admission test for the 1-year MBA program. But when it comes to our regular PGP 2-year MBA program, yes, CAT is considered. And for an international candidate or a candidate who is outside India, he can apply through GMAT score for the 2-year MBA program. So that's how the decision was taken.
So Kunj, for IIM Ahmedabad, we did consider CAT for the first 3 or 4 years. But then the feedback that we got was, from a time standpoint, it happens in, the timing becomes a challenge because the timing, the test is conducted sometime in November, December, or October, November. And for us, the first, and the scores are not valid for over a certain period of time, right? So the validity of the scores is another reason why we go for the GMAT GRE, right? Plus, our international students can take those scores. And our first round of admissions are from June to August. So many a times it is much before the CAT is conducted, right? So it becomes a challenge, it's a logical challenge. So that's the reason why we opted out of CAT and moved towards GMAT and GRE.
Understood. Okay. We have a question from Abhyank. I'm going to break the question in 2 parts. Abhyank, thank you so much for your patronage. I'm going to ask the second part to Sehar first. Sehar, Abhyank is asking, what is the best time to take GMAT? Essentially, he wants to understand how to make the decision in terms of timing. When should he take the decision of taking the GMAT exam?
Well, GMAT can be taken throughout the year.
Right.
So the window for online GMAT, in fact, you can book 6 months in advance. The test center also you can book in advance, and online GMAT you can take at any hour of the day.
No, the meaning is that at what stage of preparation should he be taking?
So I would say, I'm coming to that. So as far as preparation is concerned, typically you would need 3 to 4 months. Again, it's a very subjective thing. Some people, I would suggest, Abhyank, you should take a mock test and see. A mock test is basically a practice exam, which is free of cost. It's available on mba.com. Just take that and see what your score is. It has real GMAT questions. Right. So if you get your target score, which will lead to the school that you want to go to, I would say take it immediately within 15 days or within a month. If you think you need more practice, if your target score is not very close to what you were expecting, so do that. So I would say take a practice test to see where you are at, and rest, I would say take it as per the school deadline that you're planning to apply to. Go to the school website and at least take the GMAT 1 month in advance, because the official scores don't come immediately when you take the exam. So for the online GMAT, the official score comes after 1 week. So you have to plan it accordingly. And for the test center GMAT, the official score comes within 3 weeks. So definitely take the test a month, advance if you want to apply for that particular school.
Right. Okay, guys, there is another part to Abhyank's question. Again, that is in 2 parts. He's asking that when is a good time, when does the application process start? So what is the typical season when the application process starts for the Executive MBA programs? And more or less, it will be similar, I'm guessing, for all you guys. So if you could give some light on that. And the second thing is something that we've discussed, and maybe we can give 1 or 2 examples here in terms of how does the MBA help people switch? Does it really help people switch industries is what he's asking. Yeah. So anybody whoever wants to take this question, please.
So Kunj, I can go.
Yeah, please.
For us, we have 3 rounds. The first, so our window opens up on Monday. Which is, I think, June 21st, right? So June 21st, I think that's our first window. Our second window is sometime in October, and the third is Jan first week. So those are the 3 windows that we have where we accept the scores.
Right.
And to answer your question, whether somebody can change sector, my response to that is you can change either your sector or your competency. You cannot change both. Right. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. It is possible, but the chances are very, the odds are very low. So, I mean, that's my say. You can either change your sector or your competency.
Perfect. guys, broadly, if you could tell me your intake processes as well. What are the dates, application processes? Gautam, if you could tell us how's the intake process at Great Lakes?
Yeah, so at Great Lakes, we start the admission process for the PGPM in July. So for 2022, we'll be starting in, let's say, within a month, right? And we have multiple cycles. The first cycle deadline would be end of November, and one cycle, that's where we take more students from with GMAC test, and one cycle we have in January post CAT results, right? And again, suggest students to apply in the cycle one if you can. That's something that, again, I think most schools would advise that, because that gives you more time to prepare, not just in terms of preparation, but also post getting into school, you get more time to plan out, because we are talking about people who have work experience. They need to plan out in terms of transitioning from their current roles and so on, right? So that's the timeline that we have.
Right. Mr. Balakrishna, Sukita, Yashwant, just give us a broad idea of what your intake dates.
Yeah.
Seasons
for the
are.
1-year MBA program at IIM Bangalore, we take candidates in 3 rounds. That is, they can apply in either round 1 or 2 or 3. And this starts right from July, goes up to December, January. It's more or less same as that of the IIMB.
Cool.
The time.
All right.
Frame. So
Thanks
these
a
are
lot.
the 3 rounds, and minimum 5 years of work experience after graduation. Any experience or exposure before graduation cannot be considered as work experience.
Right.
And also we consider the GMAT score, which is a valid GMAT score. That means GMAT is valid for 5 years. So one should apply with a valid GMAT score. That's it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Yashwant, you want to go next?
Sure. So we typically have 3 rounds of intake. Our first round this year, the deadline is on 12th of September. The second round would be towards the end of December. And finally, the third round would be the end of January or early February, around that time.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Sukita, what's your intake schedule like?
Our intake is for the September intake. We are actually currently live with our process. So pretty much starts around April, and we do the recruitment cycle from April to August.
Cool. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. I want to move to the next question. And this is a question that has come to us while some of the students registered for this session. This is a more open-ended question. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Yes. So a lot of students have this very, and this is across the board, even for younger students, this problem is there, where they feel worried that their undergrad is in commerce and what their jobs are either sales jobs or customer service jobs or call center jobs. So they have a different level of insecurity where they feel that, they're not from engineering colleges and they don't have software experience or working for a TCS or those kinds of top companies. So what chances do they have of getting into your programs, and how important is that kind of profile for you guys in terms of diversity, in terms of, the holistic experience of a classroom? So anybody can take this question, whoever wants to go.
So Kunj, I can go. So what we look at from a holistic standpoint, they are those 5 or 6 parameters that we look at, right? And what I tell the prospective candidates is that as long as you may be low on one parameter, but if you have a couple of spikes in others, right? I think you have a great chance to, and you should apply for the program. So say you have a low graduate degree score, but you have a great GMAT score and a great letters of recommendation and great work experience. Those are spikes. So you must apply. And I think nobody should, step back because of their background. They should all apply. So I think they should absolutely, if they feel they should apply, I think I would strongly encourage everyone to apply.
Yeah. Kunj, if you really look at an MBA, right, I think these are the relevant areas, right? If somebody has any kind of marketing sales experience, that's a great experience, right? Because a majority of the management graduates tend to be in marketing space or product space after they do an MBA. So that experience is great. Similarly, commerce is again relevant. right? Compared to engineering, which I would say is, to an extent less relevant, right? So every area is relevant, I think, and a lot of times people have this question, right? My background is this, am I at a disadvantage? Right?
It's already,
so
the chat is filled with people. The chat right now is filled with people putting in their backgrounds and saying that, can I get into
exactly.
a top MBA program?
So the way to look at it is, what is that I want in the future and how can I get it, rather than worry about what I have done in the past, right? It's important to look at, what you have done and what you have learned out of it, and how do you channelize that into the future, right? And everybody had certain common experiences, right? You would have dealt with constraints, right? Whether it's dealing with customers, vendors, project deadlines, right? You had to manage things, right? All these are valuable irrespective of the context, right? Now leverage that and channelize into what you want to do in the future.
Right. Cool. Next question is from Prem Hawal, and yeah, this is going to put all of you in the box there. Why are the fees so high for executive programs? Do B schools provide scholarships? If yes, then on what basis? So you can answer the second part of the question only if you answer the first part of the question. Why are the executive programs fees so high?
Okay. Yeah. Let me go with this question. And before this, let me answer the previous question also.
Sure.
Yeah. See, at IIMB or in most of the business schools, when they're selecting the candidates, they won't look at which college you are from, or which company you are from, or what was your designation. Especially at IIMB, we have never looked at whether he is from IITs or NITs or AIMS or from the premier institutes. No, we never look at, or we never shortlist candidates based on their the institute from which he or she is coming, or from the company from which he or she is coming, or from the designation side of it. Those were never a consideration at all. So what is the consideration? Is his past academic performance, then the number of years of experience, then any significant achievements the candidate has done in the recent past or through his academics, then his admission test score. So these are all the things that we consider while shortlisting the candidate for the interview. So among these candidates, what is there at this point of time that he can improve? Can he improve his past academic performance? No, he cannot. It is already given to him. Then can he change the company overnight? Or can he increase his work experience, or can he change his work experience or the diversity? No, he cannot do those kind of things, or any significant achievement also cannot be done. So what is that he is having at this point of time in his hand is to improve his admission test score, that is GMAT test score. So he should go for the best GMAT test score that he can achieve. So with that, he can apply to the college. And also, if suppose the candidates are, say, for example, from a particular company, a guy with 7 years of experience and 10 years of experience, if the candidates are applying, the kind of the questions that we will be asking them is totally different. Because our expectation is with a 7-year experience guy, we'll look at what is that he could contribute there. And a 10 to 12-year experience guy, what would have been his contribution? So that is the way we will be asking them the questions and evaluating the candidate. It is not that he is already there in the VP role or associate VP or a project lead role, and this guy is still a tester or a developer. No, it doesn't go with the designations. So what is their contribution to the organization? These are the ways in which we evaluate the candidates, and one need not worry about he is from a sales role or he's from a commerce background or he's in the HR. No, those are not at all the considerations. What we look at is what is his contribution to the organization and how he can bring in a new perspective to the class of 75 students. So that is where we look at, and that's the way we evaluate the students.
Sure.
Yeah. Coming to your question.
Why are the executive MBA fees so high? That is the question, sir.
According to me, it is not at all high. Let them compare the apples to apple and then see how the cost is. So in Indian school, it is not just IIM, even in the other schools in India, the cost of their tuition fees is much lower than compared to the prominent business schools across the world. And also the return on investment, or whatever the way in which they want to talk about it, because I also didn't want to answer your earlier question, because when it comes to the placements, placement depends on the individual students, and the institute never pitch in to bring in any particular company. It is the students placement committee which is going to decide upon what kind of companies to come and recruit them. So it is totally we leave it to the students to do that. So according to me, it is not at all a costly program if they compare apple to apple. Yeah. So again, I will open it to others, please.
Yeah.
Kunj, if I can
please.
just put a perspective here, right? If you want to go by a car, right? It will lose half its value in the next 3-4 years, right? So the way to look at it, a business school, it's actually an investment, right? It's and you know what it does for you, that's what you should really look at, and before looking at whether it's costing this or something else, right? So I think it's about what you will get out of it over the next, not just 5 years, it's going to yield benefits over the next 30 years, right? Even comparing with any assets, for example, you buy a house or anything, right? Nothing gives as much return as investing in education in general, right? And the quality of experience that people get here is transformative in good schools, and that's going to change their entire life. So I think that's a perspective people should look at, right? And I'll also say, the 1 year programs may be more expensive than 2 years. Again, people may ask, like, 2 years is more time. Why is it costing less? And 1 year is less time. Why is it costing more? Right? It's the opportunity cost, right? Look at the value proposition and not just the cost.
Right. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to ask the next question, and this is a question that came from Sudhanshu earlier when he registered. And this is an interesting question. And Sukita, I want you to take this first, and then rest of you can also chime in. Guys, there have been two things that have changed in the last 1.5 years. One is that the COVID has happened and people have sort of figured out how to study online, more or less. As in a little less, but over time it will get better. And the other thing is the proliferation of edtech companies and online courses and those kinds of things, right? Now, if I want to get into product management, I can do a specific product management program run by an industry guy on a particular website and get that product management certification. Now, how have these two headwinds impacted the executive program, the attractiveness, the utility of an executive program, and how are you guys adapting to these new times? Yeah.
Okay, this is actually a very complicated as well as a very interesting question. Because I think all of us here have been in the education space for quite some time. And earlier when we were graduating and we were thinking careers in education, I don't think, I'm pretty sure my father gave me a high bro and like, you want to pick a career in education? That's really strange. But of course, now with the entire boom of edtech companies and the kind of monies they are raising in, we see MBA graduates wanting to join these edtech companies. So as I said, it's quite interesting to see. Having said that, okay, the way also, of course, this is something that we deal with a lot when we are talking to our executives. The way I explain it is very slightly technical and then, of course, a little informal. The primary difference lies in the fact that you're really looking at courses that are institutional versus, with all due respect, commercial. So what happens is, for example, the courses we run, okay, as an institute, these are legacy courses, right? The content development hasn't happened just because we launched a new course. These are content development that have seen progressions of, the entire evolution of how courses, students have reacted to these courses, how the kind of experience we have in designing these courses. And also the fact that the entire backing of the institution is behind, which means the way the course candidates perform or the way the quality of the courses will determine the output for the institution, because these are institutional courses. So what it means is, for example, our executive master, it's a master diploma. Okay. The quality, the entire admission process, the candidates output, all of that determines a lot of our accreditations inputs. So therefore, when we are really recruiting candidates, we are extremely careful. Now, when you look at the other courses, so even with Bocconi, we actually run a lot of programs with different partner websites, not just in India, but also abroad. Right. So it's a very clear segmentation, right? These are commercial courses and they're more focused on, let me just say it, for skill building. So for example, you're already at a certain stage, you're focused on a certain specialty, and then you just add one course after the other and you can look at it as a mini MBA. Okay. Right. But the challenge is it will not really happen if you just do one certification. You can't stop there. Also, it's about the industry acceptance, right? At the end of the day, India is a very competitive and a perception-based market, which means unless you do a major intervention in your, so it cannot just be a line item in your CV. So the way a lot of times I explain is probably these certifications are good. And I encourage a lot of our candidates to definitely do it if they're keen, but they end up pretty much being like a line item on the CV, but not like a major intervention. The MBA/Executive MBA, to be honest, is a major intervention. It's like a signal to the industry that I have taken so and so step in my career. I have upgraded myself with a long format intervention. So, you go after it month after month. It is not just a 2-month or a 6-month quick course, which is also then distributed. So therefore, it is to do with that signal versus industry acceptance, the perception, and the institutional versus commercial difference between programs. And of course, see, I can speak quite long on this, and I don't want to do that. I leave the other panelists to add to it. But this is one of the way to kind of look at these differences between courses that are offered from a lot of these edtech companies versus us. And the last part, that irrespective of the fact that these edtech companies have launched these courses, they do go back and partner with academic institutions, because that's where the validation part of it,
the credentialing comes in.
That's where the faculty power comes into picture. So no matter what edtech company you're looking at, there is a massive partnership when it comes to the business school backing. So I think pretty much all of us here have partnered with these institutions and have certifications that we are running through these institutes, these other edtech companies.
I'd just like to add, Kunj, not coming from a school, but from an experience perspective, I'd say that Sukita has covered some very amazing points, but also the peer group. The very peer group that you get when you do an MBA, the networking that you build your own network. You can actually start something of your own with people, with like-minded people there. And that peer group you can't really get in a short course. The one that you get when you do your MBA, and that tag that you get. And as Mr. Gautam Lakhamraju also said, that it's an investment that you make. That's a tag that you carry for your life. So that's something that one should definitely look at.
Sure. Okay. Guys, last couple of questions. We are almost at 8 o'clock. So I'll take last couple of questions from our audiences. One question is very pertinent, important, interesting, that if I want to shift abroad, okay, I've done my work for 6-7 years in India, and now I want to shift abroad, then is an Indian executive MBA the right way to go for me? And Sukita, I'll not let you answer that question, because you'll come from a different perspective. I want a perspective of a purely Indian MBA. So anybody, Yashwant, Gautam, Mr. Balakrishna, Ram, anybody can take this question.
Yeah, okay, let me give a quick answer for this. See, from an outside IMB kind of a thing, I would like to answer this. If you want to go abroad and work there, my personal suggestion is the place where you want to work, it is better to do an MBA from that particular place. The kind of the advantage is already you are there in that particular country for 1 year, so that the cultural adjustment is already there for you. And the companies which are coming to that particular institute, it's easy for you to join them, rather than looking for an international placement. Yes, we do provide international placements. Companies will come. Again, the kind of the chances may not be that high. If you're already thought of, yes, I want to work in Singapore, I want to work in UK or US, better do an MBA from that particular country. That will have a higher success rate of you getting a job in that particular country. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gautam, you wanted to add something here? I saw you.
No, I was just thinking of just giving Mr. Ram's example. He himself mentioned he did an MBA in India to come back to India.
Right.
So completely agree with Mr. Balakrishna that you should look at a program in the country where you want to actually settle down, right, and pursue further opportunities.
Right. Okay, guys, I'm going to go through some of the questions, and I'm going to try and respond to them myself. Others, list of executive MBA programs in India, log on to Inside IIM. There's an article around this. There is someone who's asking 9+ years of experience in sales. Does executive MBA add game-changing alleviation to me? It does. You can scroll back to the discussion. I think Gautam has mentioned how that helps, having a sales experience and doing an executive MBA. Why to choose MBA in India rather than abroad for freshers? This is not the forum, Yash. We are talking about WorkX people right now and their MBA. So you can take it up tomorrow in one of the sessions we have. There are a lot of people who put in their profiles. Guys, you will have to, I will not be able to answer specific profile questions right now. Okay, last question. Sehar, I'll come to you first on this question. And essentially, I want to understand, look, the difference between the edtech companies courses and what a lot of these campuses are offering is basically the GMAT exam that I need to cross. So despite me having the willingness to pay, despite me having the interest in doing a course, I have to first clear the GMAT exam to be able to make it to these campuses. So what is so special about the GMAT exam? What is it testing, and how can I, do well in my preparation to get into these programs?
Sure. Answering very quickly. First of all, I've mentioned this before. It's a more standardized test. It's fair. It's secure. It's completely reliable. It's valid for 5 years, and it's globally accepted. So it's not something that is very country specific. You can take it from anywhere across the globe, and most schools, in fact, 9 out of 10 admissions in top FT ranked schools are made using a GMAT score. It provides a testing experience which is consistent, and is valid, like I said, for 5 years. So that is something that is why you should take it. The other way about how to prepare, I have actually just posted a link. If you can just post it to the group. These are some free sources. So I'll just talk for a few seconds about the free resources. One is the practice exam 1 and 2. Like I mentioned, it's absolutely free. Just register on mba.com and just take those tests. The other bit is there is obviously paid exams also on mba.com. Go to the exam prep section, you'll get it. There's a study plan that GMAT offers. It's a proper 3-month study plan. If you go through it, you'll be done in about 2 to 3 months. There's also a podcast. I'm just going to share a link right here. It's again free of cost. There are some 18 episodes. It's all recorded by GMAT experts. So it's all from the makers of the test. And I've posted the link here. Go through the podcast and it'll tell you how to prepare for the GMAT. What is basically the OG, what is the latest OG have. So lots of things will be covered there itself. There's official guide on Amazon available, the latest one. Just go on Amazon, go to OG 2022 and you'll get it. So those are some resources that you can prepare for GMAT. Again, for more, just go on to mba.com on exam prep section and you'll find all of this.
Right. Okay. Adarsh, you have a few questions. All executive programs are 1 year. As far as I know, they are. And the reason is that because people can't take a very long break in between their careers. As they get older, there are more responsibilities, which is something that the panel here has covered. So you can scroll back and read a little bit more about that. The next question is from Prashant, who's saying, Prashant is very unhappy that actually to sab engineers hi sab jobs leke jate. Tum log samajhte nahi ho ki commerce kitna painful hai. Guys, it's honestly about the schools that you do it from. If you've not had a great commerce education, you will face a challenge. Why engineers are preferred in some of the places are because generally in India, the engineering course is better at the undergrad level. But that does not have to be true. And everything that you've done in your past is not going to punish you for the rest of your life. It's in your hands to correct that, do the right kind of courses, take up the right kind of opportunities, start something of your own, build your own profile, and you'll be able to make corrections for that. We are running out of time, guys. So I'm going to wind this up now. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. It's really refreshing to hear fresh perspectives on the Executive MBA. I realized that, just the way the students who come into the Executive MBA are a lot more mature. I've seen the quality of the conversation being a lot more mature with the teams that run the Executive MBA. So thank you so much for being here and giving us your time. To the students, guys, I just want to mention one thing. 7-8 years into your career, you may feel that, अब तो हो गया, अभी जो होना था मैंने पढ़ाई ठीक से नहीं किया है, मेरे प्रोफाइल पे टॉप स्कूल नहीं है, so my life is screwed. But that is not the case, and more that is not going to be the case. Someone mentioned from the panel that you have 30 years of a career to go after the age of 30 as well. So imagine, take that into perspective, that it's never late to make corrections. So do check out the MBA programs from some of the representatives here and see what works out for your careers. With that, I'm going to end this session. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kunj.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kunj.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
You too.